Okay, so this is a science video for Thursday, April 2nd. We learned about how rocks get moved and how they get weathered, worn away by different elements such as water, wind. This is going to kind of piggyback off of that and give you some more information. So I'm on page 370 where it says Blowing in the Wind. That's the title of the page. The wind is just moving air, so what can it do? A lot. Wind can pick up and move sand and other sediment. Now remember, sediment is these really small pieces of rock, almost like soil-like. Now it says, as you read the text, circle 3 effects wind has on Earth's surface. I didn't ask you guys to do that in your schedules, but if you want to, you could circle 3 effects that wind has on the Earth's surface. A landform is a natural shape of land or feature, or a natural land shape or feature. You guys learned that already. We talked about it in class. Weathering and erosion by wind changes landforms. Wind can carry particles of sediment from place to place. When wind deposits a lot of sand in one area, sand dunes form. As you can see in the picture below, those sand dunes, like when there's like mounds and hills of sand from the wind blowing it so much. Sand dunes are often found nearby sandy beaches, but dunes are also formed far from oceans. The dunes of some deserts span thousands of kilometers or miles. The shape of a sand dune constantly changes. Wind sweeps up on one side of a dune and lifts sand from its surface. Then gravity pulls the sand down the other slope. An entire hill of sand gradually advances this way. Blowing sediment can also cause changes to other landforms. Particles carried by the wind collide with exposed rock and cause weathering. Exposed rock can slowly erode, leaving interesting shapes. Mushroom rocks and arches are formed by water, but shaped by the wind. Over time, they become thinner and more fragile. Eventually, gravity pulls these formations to the ground. On the bottom of page 370, it says, draw an arrow on the dunes to show the direction in which the wind is blowing. Explain how this relates to the direction of the dunes movement. I didn't ask you guys to do that, I don't think, so don't worry about that. Okay, we're going to move on to page 371. Okay, we have 2 pictures here. We have a before and after, and it's a wall arch. As you can see in the before picture, it's intact. There's an arch almost as if you could walk on top of it. And then after, it's completely gone. Okay? It collapsed. So what I want you guys to do is write a sentence that explains what shaped the wall arch based on what we read so far. Remember, we have wind, we have water, and then we have the process of erosion, okay? So then name 3 processes that cause it to collapse, okay? So go back through your reading and name 3 things that happened that could have caused it to collapse, okay? All right. Now we're on page 373, I believe. Let's see, hold on. Yep. Okay. Now it talks about glaciers moving, okay? As a glacier moves forward, it pushes boulders against the ground below. They could carve deep grooves into rock. When a glacier begins to melt, the rocks and sediment it carried downhill drop out. The dropped off sediment forms different land features, including hills called moraines. Many glaciers, such as the one at Glacier Bay, Alaska, are still frozen today. In the distant past, though, much more of Earth's surface was covered with glaciers. A huge glacier once covered most of Canada and the northern United States. The ice cut deep grooves that filled with fresh water as the glacier melted. This was how the Great Lakes were formed. The largest, which is Lake Superior, is more than 400 meters deep in some places. Okay, so it's a similar process that we talked about in two days ago in the last lesson. Okay, the glacier melts and the gravity forces it downhill, and it leaves sediment along the way. Okay. I didn't ask you guys to do the analyze the data, so we're going to skip that. Okay, and then we're going to move on to page 375, and I believe that was the last page I asked you guys to do today. Okay. If you look at the pictures above, up top, I'm on this page, okay? It says, as a river gets older, its course may change. The banks become less steep and the distance across gets wider. A sea arch forms when waves erode a cave all the way through a narrow cliff. Okay? So this sea arch here didn't used to have this, always have this hole in here. Okay? Ocean waves crash forcefully into rocks along the shore. The waves weather cliffs, erode away pieces of broken rock, and deposit the sediment in new places. Waves can cut into shoreline cliffs. The sediment from eroding shorelines becomes the fine particles of sand. Beaches form where the sand is deposited at the water's edge. So if you ever wanted to know how sand formed and beaches formed, this is your answer, okay? So based on the other pictures and what we've read so far, I want you guys to answer, what do you think will eventually happen to this sea arch? Explain. Remember, the sea arch is full and complete right now. It's not always going to be like that, okay? So what do you think will eventually happen to this sea arch? And explain. Okay, that's it for today. Okay, thanks for watching.